What the Western countries were scared of is not going to happen in Africa, more specifically, in the Sahel region where Burkina Faso is located. In his latest interview, the president of Burkina Faso shared his future plans that literally are on another level. He is a genius, and the strategies he put forward are so powerful that they can unite the whole of Africa. With his plans, all African countries grappling with terrorism will never need foreign troops and aid. Rather, the African countries will come closer and help each other, making the Western countries totally irrelevant in the region. In this way, African countries could use their natural resources, preserve them, and avoid further exploitation. His interview was seen live in the West, and it created shockwaves, collapsing all the master plans Europe had made for Africa. Putting a last nail in the coffin, he made it clear that election in Burkina Faso is not a priority until he resolves the security problem. How is he going to do that? Let's find that out in this video. When Captain Ibrahim Traore became the president of Burkina Faso in October 2022, nobody had expected that this young leader would have plans to change the face of Africa. Yes, he had not come to only change Burkina Faso. He had plans to totally change Africa and make it a continent which would rule the world. At that time, revealing these plans would have been underestimated, so he kept these plans to himself. However, after 1 year of being in power and consolidating all his forces, he has finally revealed what he is thinking. In an interview, he said that when you aim to protect the edges of a table, you typically don't remain confined to the table itself. Rather, you extend your efforts beyond it. If African countries had provided support to Mali since 2012, or if Africa had backed Niger, would terrorism have taken root there? He said that he doubted it. He said that African countries remained passive, assuming it only affected others. Additionally, this pattern is observed in many neighboring states. They don't anticipate similar occurrences, and that's a mistake. His argument was simple. If African countries had helped each other, there would never be a need for foreign troops and aid. The argument stresses the need for taking proactive and preventive actions to address security threats, especially concerning counter-terrorism efforts in the Sahel region. The analogy of defending the perimeter of a table highlights the importance of extending support beyond immediate borders to prevent security challenges from spreading. Well, that's a genius plan. It says that instead of fighting terrorists in the home country, the African leaders have to move beyond their borders. This means that they have to collaborate and launch a broader operation against terrorism. The comparison to protecting the perimeter of a table underscores the importance of being proactive rather than reactive in defense strategies. It emphasizes the necessity of taking preemptive steps to tackle security threats before they become more severe and spread to neighboring areas. Initiating proactive measures, such as offering support and aid to vulnerable neighboring countries, suggests that the escalation of terrorism and instability could have been prevented. This argument also says that the lack of adequate support for nations like Mali and Niger has contributed to the increase of terrorism in these regions. By stressing the significance of sustained support and cooperation with neighboring countries, it emphasizes the role of regional collaboration in preventing the expansion of security threats. The suggestion is that a collective approach among neighboring states could have potentially stopped the spread of terrorism within the region. Ibrahim Traore stressed the need for collective security among the Sahel countries, all of whom are struggling with terrorism. He confessed the failures in the approach to addressing security challenges, indicating that certain states have not fully acknowledged the potential threats within their immediate vicinity. However, by acknowledging these errors, a more comprehensive and proactive security approach that goes beyond individual national boundaries can be created. He continued and said that the most effective approach for self-defense is to take a proactive stance. This aligns with the argument put forth by certain Western nations, advocating for their intervention in the Sahel region to combat terrorism before it reaches their territories. Additionally, it's a matter of protecting the neighboring communities. There's no justification for remaining passive. He said that if the fellow African countries allow Niger to succumb to destabilization, it sets a precedent for other neighboring countries, following the fallout from Libya, which flooded the region with various weapons, ultimately contributing to the rise of terrorism. He said that we cannot allow a repeat of the situation in Niger. Hence, Africa needs to approach this logically. When African countries engage in this effort, it's not solely about defending Niger, but primarily about safeguarding the individual countries in the region. Therefore, all African countries must extend their assistance. He warned that if Niger falls into turmoil, it will adversely affect Burkina. Therefore, Burkina Faso is already taking action. While not fully deployed yet, it is collaborating closely. Just last week, air units operated in perfect coordination to eliminate a group spotted by the Nigerians en route back to the Burkina Faso region. He said that Burkina Faso's forces intervened, demonstrating seamless coordination. This is the approach Burkina Faso is advocating for. Ibrahim Traore simply summed up the entire terrorism problem in African countries. He made it clear that instead of relying on foreign troops and aid, African countries must take control in their own hands. It's because terrorism can never be fought if countries are separated, with each holding its own personal goals. Terrorism in a neighboring country will inevitably affect a particular country. Therefore, considering it a need for existence, African countries must collaborate. That's the strategy he has in mind, and he has already started working on it. If African countries opt for cooperation in the fight against terrorism, instead of solely relying on external troops and aid, it could lead to several significant implications and potential outcomes. For example, cooperation among Sahel nations may result in improved security measures and coordinated actions to combat terrorism. By conducting joint military operations and sharing intelligence, the region can bolster its capacity to effectively address security threats. What's more, increased collaboration is likely to contribute to overall stability in the Sahel region. By fostering trust and understanding among neighboring nations, joint efforts can help reduce interstate conflicts and minimize the spillover effects of terrorism across borders. A collective approach to counter-terrorism would empower local security forces and enable them to play a more active role in addressing security challenges. Strengthening the capabilities of national defense and security forces could promote self-reliance and autonomy in handling security issues. Over-reliance on foreign troops and aid often undermines a nation's sovereignty and autonomy, which we have already seen in the Sahel region. Hence, through regional collaboration, Sahel countries can assert their independence and take control of their security affairs, fostering a sense of self-determination and self-governance. A unified effort against terrorism in the Sahel region would encourage a sense of pan-African solidarity and unity. By demonstrating a commitment to addressing internal challenges collectively, countries in the Sahel could set an example for increased cooperation and solidarity across the continent. Not only that, but collaboration would facilitate the pooling of resources and expertise, leading to the more efficient use of financial, military, and intelligence resources. By avoiding duplication of efforts and resources, countries could optimize their capabilities and maximize the impact of their counterterrorism strategies. In turn, these collaborative efforts could lead to the development of comprehensive region-specific solutions tailored to the unique challenges and dynamics of the Sahel. By addressing the root causes of terrorism and extremism, such as socioeconomic disparities and governance issues, countries can work towards sustainable peace and development. African countries will see a decreased reliance on foreign assistance, which would reduce the region's vulnerability to external influences and interests. This could promote a more self-reliant and sustainable approach to security, allowing Sahel countries to prioritize their own interests and development agendas. But why is Ibrahim Traore laying so much stress on security? Well, that's because security is the very crisis that has limited African countries from developing. It's the eternal problem that has limited African countries from focusing on development and progress. Not only that, but the majority of the budget is spent on the military, depriving other sectors. All this is due to terrorism. However, he pointed towards something which nobody earlier thought about. He stressed the fact that an increased rate of terrorism is seen in only those African countries that were earlier French colonies. In other words, there were colonies in Africa that were ruled by Britain, Portugal, Germany, Italy, and Belgium. However, terrorism is seen only in countries that were ruled by France. This is because France is the only country that did not leave its colonies even after their independence. It wanted to exploit them and their resources. But as they were independent, they had to create some excuses. Therefore, it started terrorism in these colonies, which created the need for foreign troops. That's why various countries, including Mali, have openly said that France funds terrorism and provides weapons to them. Now, this makes it clear that terrorism is the root problem of everything, and France wants it to stay in the Sahel region. What does this encourage African countries to do? Well, the answer is simple. As Ibrahim Traore has said, African countries have to unite and fight terrorism collectively. Whether it's funded by France or not, it's keeping the countries in a perpetual cycle of dependent and internal conflicts that has to stop. He made it clear and assured everyone that he would not arrange elections unless he resolved this security problem. That's why he declared that Burkina Faso would postpone elections until security concerns were resolved. Previously, Traore had assured that democratic elections would be reinstated by 2024. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. He said that there won't be an election confined solely to Ouagadougou, Bougouriba, and a few surrounding towns. All Burkinabés must have the freedom to choose their president. Those participating in the elections should be able to campaign anywhere in Burkina, for the people of Burkina. That's the bottom line. Following the 2022 coup, Traore assumed power amidst ongoing jihadist violence, including attacks orchestrated by Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. While in office, Traore attempted to recruit members for the Civilian Defense of the Fatherland Force. However, the situation has not improved significantly, as Traore recently affirmed that they were at war. Traore, who had previously pledged a return to democracy with presidential elections scheduled for July 2024, also revealed plans to amend the constitution to ensure it reflected the will of the masses. Following his seizure of power, Traore had initially given himself 2 to 3 months to improve security in Burkina Faso. However, a year later, the nation continues to grapple with jihadist attacks. At the age of 34, Traore became the world's youngest leader when he was sworn in as interim president, vowing to reclaim territory and facilitate a transition, leading to elections in July 2024. Traore expressed intentions to make a partial change to the country's constitution, highlighting on state TV that the current text reflects the viewpoints of a few enlightened individuals at the cost of the popular masses. Ibrahim Traore knows that security is the root problem of all. Unless it is resolved and terrorism is wiped out, there will always be a possibility of foreign interference in Africa. He does not want that. He wants to end all the excuses that the West can use to come to Africa and exploit its resources. As he himself said, African countries cannot allow something like the Libyan civil war that started after a great leader like Muammar Gaddafi was killed after foreign interference. Roughly 2 weeks after France initiated airstrikes on Libya in March 2011, Hillary Clinton was given an intelligence memo from her longtime associate Sidney Blumenthal. The memo put forth allegations about France's underlying motives in toppling Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, suggesting that President Nicolas Sarkozy was motivated by less than noble incentives, including a vested interest in Libyan oil and concerns that Gaddafi might use his considerable gold reserves to challenge France's dominance in the region. The correspondence released from Clinton's office reveals the extent of Blumenthal's involvement, with nearly a third of all emails Clinton received about Libya originating from him. Despite not holding an official position at the State Department, Blumenthal, linked to the Clinton Foundation, regularly sent updates to Clinton, often citing unnamed sources supposedly close to Libya's political elite. Blumenthal's partner, former CIA operative Tyler Drumheller, assisted in preparing these briefings, with both individuals eyeing business opportunities in post-war Libya through their company Osprey. Despite their lack of tangible success in these ventures, the emails conveyed by Blumenthal to Clinton included unusual claims, such as Libyan elites seeking improved relations with Israel and allegations of European spy agencies supporting the establishment of a semi-autonomous tribal zone in eastern Libya. One particularly intriguing piece of intelligence in the memo highlighted Gaddafi's alleged plan to use a substantial amount of gold and silver to back a new African currency. The sources suggested that France intervened to thwart this move, fearing its potential impact on the French-backed CFA franc in West Africa. The memo indicated that this specific development influenced Sarkozy's decision to partake in the attack on Libya. Although Blumenthal was not a State Department employee when he forwarded the gold conspiracy, Hillary Clinton clearly took his views seriously and sometimes urged her staff to consider the information. For instance, on August 27, 2012, Blumenthal's intelligence claimed that a new Libyan president would seek a discreet relationship with Israel. Clinton forwarded the email to her top policy aide, Jacob Sullivan, with a note suggesting it be shared with the Israelis. Some of the intelligence reports received more skepticism, with Clinton's aides indicating that not all the information was credible. While it's unclear what Clinton's staff thought of the Blumenthal memo, it attributes less than flattering motives to the French president's decision to intervene in Libya. In the spring of 2011, Nicolas Sarkozy led the push for a European air campaign against Gaddafi as protests evolved into a civil war. Sarkozy dispatched French intellectual Bernard-Henri Lévy to meet with the National Transition Council (NTC), which the Blumenthal memo referred to as France's client. Sarkozy later recognized the NTC as the official government of Libya, pressing other NATO countries to take military action. Just 2 weeks before Blumenthal sent the Gaddafi gold memo, Clinton met with Sarkozy in France, where the president urged her to support an air campaign in Libya. At the time, Sarkozy publicly justified his enthusiasm for military intervention as an effort to prevent a killing spree and to support Libyans seeking to liberate themselves from servitude. However, the Blumenthal memo presents a contrasting narrative. Apart from concerns about a new African currency backed by Libya, Blumenthal's sources told Clinton that Sarkozy's decision was primarily motivated by 4 factors. They were Libyan oil, expanding French influence in North Africa, providing a global stage for the French military, and Sarkozy's desire to enhance his domestic standing. In the spring of 2011, Sarkozy faced re-election next year, with a record-low approval rating of almost 70% disapproval. Some saw Sarkozy's decision to intervene as a desperate attempt to boost his popularity. Polls in February 2011 indicated that 66% of the French population supported France's intervention in Libya. Coincidentally, Sarkozy had a complicated relationship with Libya's dictator. In 2007, Gaddafi visited France shortly after Sarkozy's election as president to negotiate a controversial $200 million arms deal. Sarkozy accommodated the Libyan dictator by allowing him to hunt in the Rambouillet forest, once the hunting ground of French kings, and granting him a private tour of the Louvre with his female bodyguards. Gaddafi even erected a heated Bedouin tent in the gardens of the Hôtel de Marigny, used for state visitors, during his visit. Sarkozy's rapport with Gaddafi took a strange turn when allegations arose that the Libyan leader had financially supported Sarkozy's 2007 electoral campaign. In 2012, a French investigative news site published a document from 2006 outlining plans for Gaddafi to fund Sarkozy's campaign with 50 million euros, a document disputed by Sarkozy. The document emerged from the archives of the deposed Gaddafi regime and was corroborated by former regime insiders. The Blumenthal intelligence, however, does reveal that even within American intelligence circles, Sarkozy's justifications for the war were not taken seriously. There's also substantial circumstantial evidence linking France's eagerness to see Gaddafi ousted and its oil interests. In 2011, the French daily Libération published a letter from Libya's National Transitional Council, promising to allocate 35% of the country's crude oil to France in exchange for its total and permanent support. This letter was corroborated by another previously released Blumenthal memo, which informed Clinton that French intelligence services met with NTC figures early in the uprising to secure French dominance in Libya's post-Gaddafi oil sector. The memo, dated March 22, 2011, entitled "How the French Created the National Libyan Council, où l'argent parle," meaning money talks in French, cautioned Clinton that the French intelligence service DGSE had initiated a series of secret meetings with prominent Libyan opposition figures, providing them with money and guidance. These French spies, acting under orders from Sarkozy, promised that once the council was formed, France would recognize it as Libya's new government. Muammar Gaddafi's death occurred on October 20, 2011, following the Battle of Sirte. The former Libyan leader was discovered west of Sirte after his convoys were targeted by NATO airstrikes during the 2011 NATO military intervention in Libya. This intervention was to save the people of Libya from their dictator, a claim that today's face humiliation, given that this whole operation was for money and power. Gaddafi was captured by the National Transitional Council forces and then swiftly killed. Initially, the NTC stated that Gaddafi had died from injuries sustained in a firefight when loyalist forces attempted to rescue him. However, a video capturing his final moments depicted rebel fighters assaulting him, with one of them disturbingly using a bayonet before Gaddafi was shot multiple times. The killing of Gaddafi sparked criticism, as it was deemed a violation of international law. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch demanded an independent autopsy and an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Gaddafi's death. In the immediate aftermath of reports about Gaddafi's demise, Fox News released an article titled "U.S. Drone Involved in Final Gaddafi Strike," as Obama heralds regime's end, uncovering the role of a U.S. Predator drone in the airstrike on Gaddafi's convoy just before his death. Considering that Libyan rebels had consistently expressed their reluctance to accept overt foreign military assistance in toppling Gaddafi's American government officials, covert military aid, including arms provisions to the opposition, was utilized. Following Gaddafi's death, the immediate plan was to swiftly initiate the delivery of humanitarian aid to eastern Libya and later to western Libya, recognizing the significant symbolic importance of these actions. Captain Ibrahim Traore today knows all this history. He knows that he must never give any excuse to the West to interfere in the African region. This will be not done by following Western policies, but by forging a military alliance with African countries, much like NATO. This military alliance will not only allow African countries to wipe out terrorism, but also ensure external security and territorial integrity. This is how he plans to change the fate of Africa. What do you think? Can Ibrahim Traore unite African countries to establish a military alliance? Isn't it true that this has already been done in the form of a security pact between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso against foreign attacks? Let us know your thoughts on whether Ibrahim Traore is the man Africa desperately needs. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.